This is Truth Quest.
And now your hosts, Dr. Brian and Mary Claire.
Welcome, I'm Dr. Brian.
And I'm Mary Claire.
And today we're going on a truth quest to understand spot fixing.
Spot fixing, here we come. Okay, so what if the outcome of a game wasn't fixed? But Brian, what if a single pitch was?
Amazing.
So everybody who's been keeping up with national news, frankly, not even just sports news. There's a major question in the MLB right now that revolves around the Cleveland Guardians having kind of raised an alarm on a potential scandal called spot fixing. It's a form of corruption that doesn't necessarily change who wins or who loses, but it does make you question, again, the foundation of truth, frankly, and our trust in sports. And there have been a lot of questions of that across both collegiate and professional sports recently. But we're going to dive into spot fixing and why it's dangerous, even though it may not change the outcome of a game, why it's still dangerous, how it's spreading across sports, and then what it means for the future of baseball, and then again, broadly for sports in general. And we'll connect the link here. Again, we're on the hunt for truth, and how do we help reveal the truth to individuals, to organizations. So we're going to make that connection between the work we're doing here at I Can Know and the opportunities that exist in the market for revealing truth.
Fantastic. It's interesting that this is even an issue because it's frankly an outcome of technology and the growth of technology, right?
Yep.
I mean, this ability to bet on anything and everything, like pitches and maneuvers, first outs. It's unbelievable what you can bet on, and technology has made that possible. And one of the things we're going to talk about too is maybe how technology can help solve this at some point in time as well. But how quickly this has blown up. Really, this whole betting has blown up. I mean, so much so now that you probably just saw ESPN launch their betting app.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting into it. It's big money. And it's very much a potential threat to the integrity of the game. So what is spot fixing? Let's start with a couple of definitions. So when you hear game fixing, you probably think of players or teams deliberately throwing an entire game, right? This was what was so concerning when Pete Rose was indicted, was the whole point that he was betting on games he was playing in. So it's like, well, I can do things that cause us to lose or win an entire game, right? And so this is losing on purpose so that gamblers can cash in. And that's the classic scandal from the 1990 Black Sox to Pete Rose, as we just talked about. Spot fixing, though, is really different. It's about manipulating individual moments. And it's really about the micro events that don't always affect the final score, but can influence the outcome of a betting situation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So you think about it this way. A pitcher deliberately throws the first pitch way outside the strike zone. And ironically, right now, you could take a bet. Will the first pitch be outside the strike zone? Oh, maybe there's a kickback opportunity here and somebody throws that pitch outside the strike zone. It doesn't really matter to the big scheme of things, but it matters in the micro moment.
Yep.
A batter strikes out intentionally in just one at bat. So you can be like, oh, I bet that this person will strike out at their third time at bat. And if that's known, a fielder misplays an easy ground ball in one inning, but only misplays it enough that the runner doesn't advance, but it's still a misplay, right? So one tiny event, the game result might not change at all, but if you're a bettor who knew that was coming, then you can make a fortune. And with today's sports books offering all these micro bets on things like, will the first pitch be a strike or a ball? This spot fixing has become a gold mine for corruption.
I'm in Milwaukee, and the Brewers have had, until recently, a fantastic season, at least the last 6 weeks or so. It's been a little slow the last week. But it does, it makes you question when you're watching a game. I never in my life until the summer would have wondered, is somebody intentionally doing that?
Yeah.
A strikeout or pitcher throwing a ball on the ground, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's sad. There's like a loss of innocence yet again in sports on this
totally.
spot fixing.
Totally.
So
First,
anyway.
we've gone from NIL and all of the money and college football now to these things, right?
Yep.
I mean, there is a lot of hand wringing, a lot of angst, and I don't. It's probably not misplaced. I mean, there's some real issues. Well, so talk to us about the Guardian scandal. You want to tell us a little bit about what's going on with that?
Yeah. Okay. So, the Guardians pitcher, Luis Ortiz, he is being investigated. And it looks like bettors were waging heavily against Ortiz to throw his first pitches as balls. And then I think as the investigation continued, sure enough, that's what he was doing, throwing them well outside the strike zone. So this is an example you just offered, Brian.
Right.
Okay, so that was kind of like a tip. I'm not sure, a little bit of the tip of the iceberg, but the story keeps getting bigger here. Emmanuel Clase, who's an all-star closer, and one of the Guardians' biggest names was added, unfortunately, to this investigation. And this wasn't just, in this case, Ortiz, more of a fringe player, but an all-star on the team. And so both players have been placed on administrative leave while this investigation kind of goes forth or unravels. And now I feel like 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, it was a big deal when a state would allow some form of gambling, right?
Yeah.
And now Ohio is considering banning micro bets altogether, saying that things like this first pitch bets are too easily manipulated. And so we're entering under the MLB, I think, is facing, or at least they're the ones on the headlines right now in this uncharted territory. And they're talking about taking players out of games. And again, the actions here are not impacting the outcome of a game, at least we hope. But it's these micro bets, but it's manipulating games and for the purpose of profit. So that's how this thing has kind of bubbled up to date.
Yeah. It's really interesting because then you ask yourself, well, how did they even know? I mean, these are just little things. How would they even know, right? Well, it turns out that one of the things that they were doing is they were monitoring the volume of bets around specific behaviors right before the behaviors happen. They go back then and they took a look at this. So what happens is you get this spike of bets that the first pitches are going to be balls, and then the pitches are balls. And so then they start to do this investigation and they start to wonder. But here's the challenge. How do you know that it's not just some really smart people looking and saying, hey, you know what, Luis Ortiz, he throws his first pitches as balls 90% of the time.
Yeah, because of the analytics, we're so rich in analytics, particularly in MLB. How do you not? Exactly. How do you prove otherwise?
Yeah, exactly. So this becomes really challenging. If you look at this, you're like, okay, great. There was a spike in bets, but was that because they knew it was coming, or just because they were, data rich and smart and said, this is how he normally throws his pitches, and they go with that and they learn that, they see that pattern, right? So that becomes pretty tricky to figure out exactly how you answer that question.
Well, and also as a player, I don't engage in gambling. I have no idea. Just this idea of these kind of micro bets. My husband taught me, he doesn't gamble either, but he told me what they were sometime in the last year. I was like, you're kidding me. It was more in football, whether we get a first down at a certain time in the game or so on and so forth. But as a player, I'd be curious how they avoid it as well. I guess I've avoided it for 40 years, but how do you not hear things like, oh, by the way, buddy, like, did you know X? There's people are often betting on Y part of the game as it relates to you. How do you even avoid it as a player to then, I guess if you're not betting on it, then it doesn't matter. You could be aware of it, but not betting on it yourself.
You could imagine sophisticated environments, though, where players are getting kickbacks in certain ways. A big gamblers would be like, I'll give you a percentage of this, right? I don't have to bet. I don't have to, I don't want a paper trail of me making any bets. But if I get, kickbacks on something, and maybe that's where you look at people's bank accounts and just see what happens. Maybe you follow the financial trail, but it is a challenge. I mean, you think about all these different sports, and by the way, it's happening. MLB is not the first sport to deal with this, right? Like there's a case in cricket back in 2010 where Pakistani bowlers were caught deliberately bowling no balls, meaning they overstepped the line on purpose because gamblers had wagered on the exact timing of those no balls, right? So it's like, I wager that you're going to go over the line, and they go over the line. and they were shown that they were doing that. In tennis, lower level players have been busted for intentionally double faulting at certain moments. That'd be a big one. You know,
Yeah,
the other one is hitting into the net
yeah.
on purpose, right? Soccer, defenders have deliberately conceded throw-ins or corners, knowing bettors were making money off those exact plays. There's just a lot of little things that are not obvious. So does it exist? I mean, clearly it's existing wherever these micro bets exist. And until now, with legal sports betting exploding in the US, I think baseball is catching up to a problem that other sports have been battling for years because betting has been legal.
Yeah.
These micro bets have been legal in these other sports for a long period of time.
Well, okay. So the question is, why is it so dangerous? As we talked about originally, this isn't impacting the outcomes of games or matches, or depending on whatever sport you're in. So why does it matter? I think I named it earlier. It's just my experience watching the Brewers. Now I'm questioning, is Yelich I think he struck out twice in the game. I know, there's just any, or like I said, a pitcher throwing one into the ground, or first baseman missing a ball. I just things I never would have thought of. I think that's the perfect example of it. There's just is there a basic lack of trust now?
When you think about that level of trust and how important it is to the game, I don't know if you're an NBA fan or not, Mary Claire, but
yes, I am.
For a long period of time at the NBA level, everybody's been worried about the refs, right? The refs, can they be trusted? And it turns out that a little while ago, there was a scandal about a ref who was making calls and throwing games, doing different things based on the bets that were being placed, and he was being paid for those, which I think kills the game, because then you're like, if I can't trust the refs, if I can't trust people that are now, and in this case, I don't think anybody ever thought, well, can I trust the players? They're all like, can I trust the refs? Can I trust the system? Do I have the commissioner of the NBA saying, "Wow, throw this game. We don't want let's get to a game 7. Let's make sure that this doesn't end in 5 games." And we can all, the conspiracy theorist in me, it's just, that's so easy to get to, right? And now if I'm like, oh, I got a player who's going to miss a free throw on purpose, or, who's going to make a bad inbounds pass on purpose, or, whatever the case might be, I'm like, wow, I would be done watching that game pretty quick. As they say, it's gonna lose the magic, right?
Yeah, there's a lack of authenticity in any of it. And the product itself is no longer the product we bought, so to speak, or we bought into.
Yeah.
Like you said, the magic's lost.
Yeah. So what do we do? How do you solve this problem?
I think I know a solution, Brian.
Yeah,
I think
too.
you do too. So we've done this in a number of episodes now, the what if, but it seems to me, and you mentioned it earlier, Brian, like technology has actually introduced this problem and a change in policy. But technology has allowed created a market opportunity. Policy has changed, which creates an inadvertent market opportunity, in this case, for players with spot fixing. So then how do we leverage technology to counter? And I think that's where our thought is, can we leverage, whether it's Aikano or other technologies, to counter these micro bets? So to protect the integrity and that authenticity that we come to love. You and I are huge sports fans, so we come to love about sports. And if we know that there's a technology counter to this, for in our case, an easy to use lie detection technology or truth verification technology, does that then counter the incentive of engaging in spot fixing or engaging in micro betting? Can we counter a counter? Fight fire with fire, if you will.
It's interesting because they are trying to use technology to solve the problem. But as we mentioned before, I can find correlation, but I can't really find causation. I mean, intent really matters here. So can I show that I threw an outside pitch when somebody made a lot of money of that? Yes, I can. But can I prove that I tried? That becomes really difficult, right? And one of the benefits of this new AI technology that Aikano is using is that we could ask for intent. Did you intend to throw this pitch outside, right? Were you trying to not throw a strike? And get the answer to that question directly. That's super useful, because now I can take correlation and I can attach that to causation, and I can say, yes,
With
I can,
data.
with data, right? So not only can I show why I believe it's true, but now I can show that the evidence suggests that you're not telling the truth if you're saying that it wasn't true, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm surprised something like this isn't used. We've been contacted by fishing tournaments.
Yeah.
Because polygraph is actually written into their,
Right.
not all tournaments, but I think more so than any other, from my understanding, which isn't broad, but more so than any other sport, polygraph, the opportunity for lie detection is written into the rules. You sign off that you are willing to take a polygraph if asked at a certain point in the tournament. It's usually for the prize money at the end. Why this is not written into more policy, I don't know. Especially and I know from a player union perspective, I could see that depending on the sport, I could see that being an issue. But if players are breaking down the trust and eroding the sport and eroding the market for that sport, then there has to be a counter, and policy
Agreed.
has to change. Again, it's accountability. How do we create
And it's just one
accountability?
more data point, right? As we often say.
Yeah.
It's not the be all end all answer, but it's one more data point. If I've got the correlation and I'm failing a verified test, an I can know test, and I fail that, those are two then strikes, right? Now maybe I go to the third strike and I'm looking for a specific bank account. Did I
Yeah.
get a kickback? Did I get
Yep.
some money? And but each one of those kind of ratchet up the intensity of the investigation,
Yep.
but are critical parts in that, right? So it's not as if someone could say, well, if I take this test, it ruins my career. No, it's just another indicator.
And in this case, again, unlike previous technologies, polygraph specifically, but others, one, it's reliable, unlike voice stress. There's science behind it. Two, it's a scalable solution because it can be done remotely and quickly.
Right.
You can still do it in somebody's office, but it's not a 2-hour or 3-hour test. It's a 15-minute test. So
Right.
it's simple, it's scalable to get ahead of kind of spot deception early. And by the way, it can be done before an investigation's even announced.
Totally.
Potentially. And
I
it
love
doesn't
that.
have to blow up. It doesn't
That's
have to
right.
be a big thing.
In fact, you could test every single member of your team,
Yeah, just like drug
once or
testing.
twice a season, right? Where you're like,
Yeah.
have you done anything? Have you done this at all? Right. And see what comes up. And the ones that come up and fail, then you can dig into further and start to do the analysis. That actually leads you to the point of where you could do the analysis most effectively.
Yeah. And I mean, imagine wrapping it into a drug testing. I don't know how random drug testing is administered or if it's administered, depending on which professional sport and which country. But it can't. I mean, you could do a drug test and a spot deception test in
You could.
15 minutes.
Same test, 15 minutes. That's exactly right.
So
I think some of these new technologies that are available, they're going to get more and more available and more visible. I think that's part of the challenge right now, is I'm sure the MLB doesn't know they can run an I can know test.
correct.
And so hopefully, that becomes something that they learn here soon and can do. But it's amazing what's now becoming available.
Well, and again, when I think I don't know if players union is the right term, but the group of players that speaks on behalf of the players in the league, whatever that may be called, depending on the league, I would think they'd be incentivized. Again, if the trust in that sport and therefore the market erodes, their jobs, their job security erodes, or the value of their contracts erodes.
Right.
Because there's less money coming into the sport. The USMEs aren't as interested in it.
Totally
who
right.
want an
Yeah.
authentic experience. So
That's right.
anyway, it feels like there could be a win-win here. Those that want to do it the right way, along with leadership in the league, wanting to make sure they maintain the trust in the league. So MLB, we're here.
That's right.
We're around.
That's right. Come, we'll help you.
Yeah.
We'll help you figure out this problem. That's
Yep.
exactly right. Well, that's awesome. Thank you, Mary Claire, for spending some time and going through this today. I think, oh, by the way, I was going to ask you if you wanted
Yeah.
to talk a little bit about what happened in this Michigan scandal there's been some more shoes drop, right?
Oh, there have. And as a Notre Dame fan, it was tough to swallow. Some wins were taken off of our the history books for us for admitting we'd done something wrong. Michigan didn't admit they did something wrong.
It's enough to make you angry.
Okay, I'll get off. I'm done. Not speaking as a Notre Dame fan. Yeah. So I need to read more about the investigation itself, but once again, it feels like I think I'm more disappointed in the outcome than potentially the investigation. I think they uncovered what they needed to uncover from
Yeah.
what actually happened. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So, again, I think we could have helped from an efficiency perspective and an additional data point. The outcome is disappointing. The process, I think, that unfolded was very in depth. What do you think, Brian?
Well, I still think that, we still have scapegoats in this, right? I mean, I'm not at all convinced Harbaugh had no part in this. I really want to administer a test to him. I mean, I think that, they do this in-depth thing and it ends at a place where they can get a scapegoat. And that's what it feels like to me. But that's the conspiracy theorist in me. So,
Well, I mean, the fact that he left, just like our friend at USC left when things got rocky.
yeah.
Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
I don't know. How are you not involved? And now, again, I'm a Notre Dame fan, so you can't trust what I have to say. But yeah, the whole thing just seems fishy. So
love to get at the heart of that. All
Yeah.
right. Well, we're going to keep doing these and try to unravel a little bit of these scandals and these deceptions and see if we can't identify places where these new technologies might be used and give us more clarity. So hopefully you'll all stay and join with us. Spot fixing, it may be new to baseball. It's been around for a while. I'm sure we're going to hear more about this.
Yeah, I
It's
think
going to
we will.
reshape the way sports and integrity work. But hopefully we can figure it out. So,
Well, looking forward to it.
yeah. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And remember, whether you're a fan, a player, a league official, the truth matters. Give us a call. And you can find this podcast at Spotify or wherever else you get your podcasts. And we hope that if you like it, that you'll like it and send it to some friends and family or whoever else and let them know what we're doing. So until next time, we'll catch you on the next one.
Sounds good. Thanks, Brian.
All right. We'll see you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Truth Quest. If you'd like to be a guest on our show or would like to customize a solution for yourself or your business, email us directly at answers@icanknow.com. Truth Quest is brought to you by the #1 truth verification technology available today. Visit us at icanknow.com to learn more and stay tuned for the next Truth Quest.